1981, General Leopoldo Galtieri took charge of the ruling junta at a time of civil unrest and a deepening economic crisis. In an attempt to unite the Argentine people and distract from internal unrest, the military junta set out to invade and seize the Falkland Islands, calculating that the small British garrison and London's reluctance to fight a war so far from home would keep the conflict short. On April 2nd, 1982, Argentina launched an amphibious invasion of the islands. In the opening assault, Argentine forces outnumbered the British defenders roughly 6-1, an overwhelming advantage. Argentina achieved its objective quickly, overwhelming the small garrison in a swift operation with only a single casualty. In response, the United Kingdom hastily assembled a naval task force and formed a war cabinet to direct the campaign to retake the Falklands. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher is said to have listened attentively to dissenting views from the opposition, but remained resolute once a decision was made. The task force set sail for the Falklands on April the 4th. Some vessels did not depart for another month. A small detachment of Royal Marines recaptured South Georgia Island on April 25th. The maritime exclusion zone was established around the Falklands, within which any Argentine forces encountered would be attacked. On May 1st, Britain opened its air campaign against the Falklands with Black Book 1, the first in a series of 5 raids. The mission was flown by a single Avro Vulcan bomber from Ascension Island, covering roughly 8,000 nautical miles round trip and dropping conventional bombs on Stanley's runway. The flight required repeated in-air refueling from a supporting Tinker aircraft. On May 2nd, the Royal Navy submarine HMS Conqueror sank the aging Argentine cruiser ARA, General Belgrano, killing more than 300 soldiers, roughly half of all Argentine deaths in the war. Outside the exclusion zone, the sinking prompted the rest of the Argentine fleet, which had been positioned to engage the Royal Navy directly, to withdraw to port to avoid further losses. This proved strategically decisive. It gave Britain the naval dominance central to its plan. From that point, Argentina's contribution was largely limited to its air force, which fielded more than 100 aircraft, including French-built Mirage fighters, the first European jet capable of exceeding Mach 2. Armed with anti-ship missiles. Britain, by contrast, had a comparatively small number of fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters committed to the islands. Argentine Mirage fighters using French-built Exocet anti-ship missiles sank the HMS Sheffield on May the 4th. As the fighting intensified, the United Nations attempted peace, but the effort was ultimately rejected in part because Britain had moved away from its earlier position that British administration of the islands would be restored once Argentine forces withdrew. On the night of May the 21st, the British Taskforce group, under the command of Commodore Michael Clapp, carried out an amphibious landing at San Carlos. By dawn the following day, British forces had established a secure beachhead from which to launch further operations. Brigadier Julian Thompson set up his brigade headquarters in dugouts near the San Carlos settlement. The surrounding waters became infamous among British forces as Bomb Alley because of repeated low-level air attacks by Argentine jets. The Battle of Goose Green was fought between May the 28th and the 29th. The main British force consisted of the 2nd Battalion, which was the parachute regiment. The terrain consisted of rolling, treeless, and dotted hills with grassy outcrops and peat bogs, which consisted of deposits of partially decayed plant matter, which offered the attackers little cover. The battle was also physically punishing because the islands endure a cold, damp climate, and the fighting took place in May, which is winter for the southern hemisphere. Argentine forces were dug in and supported by artillery and machine guns, though most were conscripts with limited combat experience compared to the seasoned British paratroopers. The British had expected a lightly defended position and a quick victory, based on a misreading of Argentine strength by British intelligence the night before. Instead, the Argentine defenders held their ground far longer than they had anticipated, and the battle turned into a grinding fight across several hills with casualties mounting on both sides, including the death of the British commanding officer Lieutenant Colonel H. Jones, who was killed leading a solo charge that became one of the most famous episodes of the war. With both sides exhausted, the Argentine garrison consisting of more than 1,000 surrendered to the British force with fewer than 700. Goose Green became a defining moment of the war, showcasing the determination of British forces against a numerically superior but less experienced opponent. Mount Kent and its surrounding hills form a stretch of high ground on East Falkland. The terrain dominated the British advance from San Carlos to Stanley, and its proximity to the capital made it strategically vital to both sides. Fighting began on the night of May the 29th to the 30th, when Argentine commandos encountered British SAS troopers on Mount Kent's slopes, prompting HMS Glamorgan to shell the Stanley airfield. The fighting escalated quickly. On May 30th, a 12-man Argentine assault attempting to seize the peak was surrounded. 2 Argentine officers died fighting and were posthumously decorated, while 2 SAS soldiers were wounded repelling the attack. Further clashes followed. An SAS ambush near Estancia Mountain, a Puma helicopter shot down by a Stinger missile with 6 killed, and a Harrier jet down by Argentine ground fire. Not every casualty came from enemy action. A friendly fire incident wounded a British gunner and killed 4 Royal Marines when a night patrol mistook them for Argentine Special Forces. By June 11th, British forces had captured Mount Longdon, Mount Harriet, Goat Ridge, and 2 Sisters, ending Argentina's hopes of retaking the high ground overlooking Port Stanley. With the last Argentine garrison surrounded and cut off in Port Stanley, General Mario Menendez surrendered to Major General Jeremy Moore on June 14, 1982. British losses across the campaign totaled 255 killed and 777 wounded, reflecting more experienced troops and naval superiority. Argentine losses were heavier, approximately 649 killed and between 1,067 and 1,657 wounded. Argentina held an advantage in air power, but its inexperienced garrisons ultimately could not hold the islands.